We are back. Giants baseball, past, present, and future. The host is Tim Haller. I'm Ralph Tyko. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing well, Ralph, and we have a very, very special guest tonight.
I'm going to let you do the intro because he is indeed special. Go for it, Timmy boy.
All right. Well, this is, part intellect and also a greater part emotion. But, it gives me great joy to know that my Uncle Bill Haller is joining us tonight on the show. And it's just a real privilege to have you here, Uncle Billy.
Is it hot here? Are there? Is here? It's not degrees here.
Here is there, and there is here. The way the world is today, I'm sure there's a lot of questions that you're asking yourself about what has happened. But nevertheless, I'm delighted to have you. With me, it's intellect. We've never met before. I have so much respect for you and your brother and your nephew, and so I'm going to start with what comes to my mind when I found out you were going to be on, was my memory of you as an umpire. And umpires, you're not supposed to remember them. Generally, when you remember an umpire, it's because he blew the call. But to be remembered in a positive vein is something unique. And you, as an American League umpire, and back in the day, the American League and the National League had two different sets of umpires and two different ways of wearing chest protectors, for instance. And another thing, speaking of that, you were the last umpire, if memory serves, to wear a chest protector in the All-Star game. Was that it, Mr. Haller?
You don't call me Mister. Call me Bill. I've been called a lot of things. Bill.
Okay. Well,
actually, I think Jerry Newdecker might have been the last guy to wear it.
Oh, okay. All right, but
I think, but I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure it was though. But
all right, now tell me the circumstances. You got to ump your bro.
Yeah.
He's behind the plate, and that is the late great Tom Haller, your brother, and Tim's uncle. And it was a playoff game, and they gave you permission to. It was okay for you to be the umpire, which ordinarily would you go, wow, brothers, your reputation, both of you, is impeccable. That was never going to be any issue about you were going to call the call right. That wasn't the issue. But
I have to correct you on one thing. It wasn't a playoff game. It was your regular season game.
Okay. Was he with Detroit at that time?
Yeah, he come up. He was. That was his last year. He went from. I think he went from the Dodgers to Detroit, and then he played 1 year, and then he was traded after that year to Philadelphia, and he wouldn't go. He retired as a player.
Okay, now I understand, because I couldn't understand how an American League umpire would get the opportunity now that he was with Detroit. So it was okay for you to ump a game, and after the game, what happened?
Well, the thing was, when he came to bat, I said, you better swing the bat. I'll tell you one thing. I'll say one thing about my brother Tom. I wish, and I've always thought this, I wish I would have been half the man that my brother was. He was not only a very good ball player, he was just a solid citizen. And I was very proud of him as a ball player, but more so as what kind of man he was, to tell you the truth.
That's very nice. Those are beautiful.
Uncle Billy, you are equal as far as I'm concerned. Now, help me out with this one. I know that and you guys as umpires would rotate. I mean, you would go clockwise as your duties called for. I mean, one night you would be at second, the next at first, then home plate, then third base, correct?
Right.
Okay, so it happened randomly that Dad played that night, and you were behind the plate. You were there, that was your assignment. So,
right.
Before it all happened, there was no big deal. I mean, and then it did happen, and it was historical. But fill me in a little bit on the reaction from the manager of the Baltimore Orioles after the game or later on during the season. What did Mr. Earl Weaver have to say about it?
Oh, hey, Timmy, don't use Mr. in front of him. There's other words you can use in front of him. No. Weaver wasn't a bad guy. Weaver, arguments between umpires and managers and players, it's gone today. The game has changed so much. Weaver cried a little bit because he was competitive. And who started it was Jim Palmer. Weaver didn't start it. Palmer was the one that started it. But anyway, Mr. Cronin took me off whenever our crew was supposed to. He wouldn't let me umpire Detroit anymore. And
who made that decision, Bill?
Joe Cronin.
Oh, okay.
And he was the president of the American League at the time, correct?
Yeah, he was the president, yeah.
Okay.
And a very good one, by the way.
Jimmy?
Yeah, Uncle Billy. And throughout your years, I mean, you of course are recognized and remembered because of your years of service as an umpire. But what else did you do after retiring from umpiring?
Well, I'll tell you what, Timmy. I worked for the league for 3 years, looking for umpires. I was fired because I wouldn't cross a picket line. I'm not a scab, and I never will be one. And I wouldn't scab for my mother or my father. I might scab for you, Timmy, but other than that, no. But anyway, Brown fired me because they went on a wildcat strike, the umpires during the playoffs thing, and he wanted me to go to Kansas City. And I said, listen, Brown, I'm not a scab. You knew I wouldn't go when you asked me, so don't let me. I don't like you, Brown, and you don't like me. This is a very easy way to get rid of me, and you did, which is fine. When you make your own bed, you lie in it, right? And
correct.
Well, anyway, I worked in 3 years in the American League, and then I worked.
Sir, may I ask you one question about that? There was a big article that I happened to research today by Holtzman, an article at the time that didn't mention your firing in context with your refusal to work, but they said that as head of the umpires, you were, I'm going to quote, too hard on the umpires, that you didn't like the fact that they would stand around between plays and jabber with each other, and they didn't concentrate, and you were too hard on them. That was the reason given in that article. So you're refuting that reason, and you're giving us something that I certainly didn't know, and I consider that to be terrific.
Well,
you stood up for it.
I don't know who wrote that. Holtzman write that?
I think Holtzman wrote that, and I found it on the internet. I don't have it up right now, but basically that it mentioned nothing about the strike, nothing about the scab or the umpire scab situation. Just
I don't believe
perception.
that. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that perception doesn't often match reality, or often doesn't match reality.
Well, let me answer it this way. I was hired by the American League, and they had a man working for the American League that I consider the greatest baseball man that ever lived, bar none. And that's Cal Hubbard, who was a supervisor of umpires for many years. And Hub was without a doubt, in my opinion, the greatest baseball man, and whatever he did, I followed it. And he was my hero. And I tried to do what he would have done, and but Jerry got it wrong. I don't know who Jerry was talking to. He was probably talking to Dick Butler or Bobby Brown, which is fine. You know, they have a right.
Okay, but it's nice that we get to hear both sides at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
Nice. Thank you.
I don't. Well, what happened was when I got in the thing with Weaver. It was one more series ago, and I happened to go to New York. And Butler, who was my supervisor, or head of the umpires, was, in my opinion, was one of the. I'm not knocking him. He was a nice man. He was a very brilliant man, in fact. But he was in the wrong. He was in the wrong place. He had no right to be the head of the umpires. And the story I heard, the reason he was there, he worked for Happy Chandler, and when they fired Happy Chandler in '50, Chandler had three guys that worked for him. He asked the owners to keep a job for these guys as long as they lived. And when Hub left, they put Butler in charge, which was a terrible, terrible mistake. And, he just wasn't a very good supervisor, but a nice man and a very brilliant man. I guess he had a brilliant military career over in Europe during World War II, and but he was just we butt heads. Let me put it that way.
Okay. You retired from active umpiring at a young age. You were 48 years old, and what was the circumstances behind that? You just had enough?
Well, no, I didn't have enough. But tell you the truth, my eyes were going bad. In fact, I'm going blind right now.
They were always bad, Uncle Billy. Don't let anybody tell you any different.
You got the needle out, Jimmy.
I know. I know those eyes were always pretty bad, Uncle Billy. Come on.
Oh, okay, yeah. I watch you hit. Your eyes must have been worse than mine. But anyway, you're going to lose, Tim. No, I come up and I work with outstanding people, and believe me, there's outstanding people today. I don't recognize the game anymore. The game has changed so much. It's the greatest game in the world. Let the umpires umpire. Let the ball players play. Let the fans enjoy it. Let the announcer announce it. Let the writers write. And that's the way it should be. But since they fired Fay Vincent, who they should have never fired, everything has changed. Fay Vincent was a solid baseball man. Integrity out of this world. The reason he got fired because this is just my opinion. I don't know. I think he got fired because he suspended George Steinbrenner, who I happen to work for and I like. But and then Happy got suspended because he suspended DeRocher, the Dodgers, and well, that's just the way it is. And I go ahead.
I'm going to ask my final question. I'm going to let Timmy take over. I've been dying to ask this all day. After your umpiring career and after your career in the front office, you became a scout. And I think I can't name a half a dozen, I'll bet you can't either, former umpires that went into scouting And I also can't think of a more natural scout than an umpire. So why is it that there aren't more? And did you enjoy the skate? You're into a competitive situation again. You're rooting for a team. You're trying to do your thing for a team, as opposed to being an arbitrator. Did you enjoy it more? And if you had it to do all over again, would have you gotten into scouting before umpiring?
No, I wouldn't have gotten into scouting before umpiring, but umpires are the best scouts. You know why they're the best scouts?
I think that.
Because they don't get close to the player. An umpire doesn't care if the player can catch the ball, hit the ball, if he can run or whatever. Whereas some of these scouts fall in love with these players. In fact, Stan Selinsky works for the Cubs now. Is probably the best scout I've ever seen. And every time I saw him at a game, Selinsky would come and sit with me. And I said, "What the hell do you want now, Selinsky?" He said, I want to know about this or that. I said, "Why do you ask me?" He says, "You're the best scout I've ever seen." That's what he said.
To you.
But I could look at a ball player, and after seeing all of them, I always compared with the best ball players. Compare a catcher with Munson, a third baseman with Brooks, right fielder with Frank Robinson, left fielder with Yastrzemski, right fielder with Al Kaline, center field with Mano, American League guys, first baseman with Eddie Murray and Boog Powell.
Shortstop Aparicio, I'll bet you'll say?
The best. Aparicio to me is the best I've seen. All around.
Wow.
All around. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you the question that I'll bet you've been asked before. Mickey or Willie?
Do what?
Mickey or Willie?
Who is better? Mays or Mantle?
Oh, no one was better than Mays. In our time, I just can't think of a player that could do everything as well as Mays. And I'm looking at Mays from afar, of course. But I thought there was one guy that could have been as good. I don't think he'd be better. I don't think anybody could be better. But was Bonds, the father Bonds,
Bobby.
Bonds.
Bobby.
But you know his history, and you don't have to go. We don't have to go talk about it but as far as talent, he was unbelievably outstanding. But he was his worst enemy, and what are you going to do?
Okay.
But
I don't know if you remember, Bill, that the argument that you had with Weaver, I saw it on YouTube today, and it lasted about 5 or 6 minutes. You threw him out early and kept walking away from him, and you touched with the tip of your finger. You may have touched his chest.
Yeah.
May have. And he looks up at you. You're what, 6'4"?
Yeah.
6'7". Now you're 6'4", but he was 6'7" then.
Okay.
6'4".
All right, 6'4". There's this little 5x5 guy, and he's looking up at you. If you touch me with your finger again, I'm going to punch you right in the blankety-blank mouth.
Yeah.
And your restraint, on 2 levels. First of all, you didn't laugh in his face, which surprised me right there. And you just simply looked at him. No, Earl, you're wrong, Earl. And you walked away. You had such dignity. I just want to say that.
If I did that argument again, I was mad at myself after the argument.
You know the one I'm referring to. You know the one I'm referring to.
I know what you're. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was calm. But
Absolutely.
Let me tell you, Weaver was easy. Weaver never swore at you. Weaver would swear constantly, and he didn't want to leave. But as far as swearing at you, I don't think Earl. I've never heard Earl swear at an umpire directly. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Right. In other words, you're right. Okay.
So the problem with Earl, he would never leave. See, and I didn't dislike Earl. Hell, Earl and I got into it. So what? Earl got into it with a lot of guys. Earl, I'll tell you what. Earl got missed about 900 times. Earl should have been run almost 1,000 times.
Okay.
If I'm going to put it this way, and you'll know these names. If I worked with Eddie Hurley, Richie Garcia, who I think is probably the best umpire I ever worked with, and Steve Palermo, and myself, I guarantee you, if we worked, say, 35 games in Baltimore, he'd be run 35 times.
Okay. Now, when he doesn't leave, was he fined? Like, he stood there for about 7 minutes and just
I don't
followed you around.
That was none of my business. That stuff is strictly up to the office. That never bothered me. I look at it this way: everybody has a job. You have a job. Timmy has a job. I don't have a job anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. And you do your job the best you can. Who the hell am I to tell the league president how to fine or not fine? I think they should fine him sometimes. I think when Clemens threw the bat at whoever that runner was, a broken bat, he should have got fined so much he never had a penny in his pocket, and he should have been suspended for a year. But the leadership didn't allow it. How about when the Alomar spit in the umpire's mouth?
Oh,
6-day suspension? 6-day suspension? The writer called me up. He said, well, what should he get? I said, $250,000 fine and 2 years suspension. But them people that were in charge, and you know who it was, he wasn't going to do it. And everybody thinks he's the best.
Of all the umpires you worked with, because you wrote a lot of books, Luciano got the most publicity in back in the day. Can you tell me a little bit about him? What was true, wasn't, and what wasn't true?
Ron Luciano was a very brilliant man. You know where he came from. He was from upper state New York. His father died when he was very young. His dad,
the Syracuse guy.
Yeah. All-American football player at Syracuse. He lacked just a few hours of getting his doctor's degree in education. And Ron and I were like brothers. I just thought the world of him. Ron committed suicide. Why, I don't know. We worked together about 9-10 years. I couldn't have worked with a better guy. But anyway.
That had to be a hell of a shock.
I couldn't believe it. Well, anyway, I told him one day, I said, what the hell are you umpiring for? He said, oh, I love it. I said, come on, Ronnie, you know, how many umpires love it? They like it. It's a good job. It's a well-paying job, especially today. But love it? No. They don't love being away from home all the time when kids are growing up. Oh, give me that crap. Well, anyway, I said, you're using baseball for a vehicle for better things. He said, no, I'm not. I said, you are too. And Graggiola was his mentor. Graggiola got him at NBC. And it didn't mesh.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Them guys in New York, all they do look at the bottom line. And I don't know how many years Luciano was with NBC, 2 or 3 years. I don't know. You could probably look that up. But he was with a very, very good announcer, a professional announcer. But they just didn't mesh. And It wasn't even anybody's fault, but you know, in your business, if the chips aren't rolling in, they get rid of you quick.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of me tomorrow. Which
you're not leaving.
I'm getting rid of myself because, you know, I can. I got the power now.
Well, you know, I have a question for you, Uncle Billy.
Go ahead, Tim.
And it sort of meshes in with your scouting career. I remember in the middle 80s, you were working with the White Sox.
Yeah.
And I had the pleasure of being able to play while you were working, and you got to come out and see me a few times. And that was, you know, a joy to me, more so probably than anything. I love playing in front of family and having an opportunity to play. Well, you know, people there that I loved were able to watch me play while I could. Tell me a little bit about your experience with scouting with the White Sox. Now, I know we already talked about this a little bit, but we talked just the other day, you and I, about how great umpires are as a scout because they're objective. There's no emotional cost laid out. You're there to evaluate talent, and that's your job. That's it. But let me ask you this: when you saw your nephew out there making the ball and running around like a chicken with his head cut off,
yeah,
I know that, you know, I was privy a little bit to end of season reports, and you know, because Dad would tell me some stuff or whatever, but. You know, you were probably one of the only guys in the room that gave me a pretty good report. What was it like to watch your nephew playing baseball?
Well, I was proud of my nephew. I graduate of Regis College. My brother's, I don't know if you were the favorite son, but maybe you were Mama's favorite son. I don't know, but I was proud of you. And going into sports. I wish you probably, you know what I think you would have been really, really good at would have been a instructor in the minor leagues, and because you studied the game. Look at your great managers, Tony La Russa, Whitey Herzog, the guy that died who was with Philadelphia for a long time. Damn, all these Sparky huh?
Oh yeah, okay.
Sparky Anderson. I mean, these guys are great managers, and there's more. I just use a few. Billy Martin. You can go on and on and on. And all of them were probably just average ball players, but they studied the game and they become outstanding managers. And hey, look at the guy you got in San Francisco. He's a pretty good manager. I don't know.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. You know, I'll tell you what, as the son of Tom Haller and the nephew of Bill Haller, and I tell people this as often as I get the opportunity, and I've lived it's a fairy tale life. It really is. I've lived a charmed, blessed life to have been born into the Haller family. And I'd like to at least close this show, and I hope that we have an opportunity to do this again. But I want you to share the story of the patriarch of all of this, Foxy, and tell the story about the day in spring training he met the commissioner.
You met the commissioner?
Yes.
I don't remember that one.
Well, remember you told me you guys were out in Phoenix or somewhere out in Phoenix. It was spring training. Foxy, of course, was out there. And Foxy, I'm referring to Frank Red Haller, my uncle and my dad's father, and their sister Joyce's dad.
Yeah.
But Louis Kuhn was at the ballpark, and you guys were either leaving or coming. Yeah. And didn't Foxy have an opportunity to meet Mr. Kuhn reached out, they shook hands, and he kissed his ring.
No. You got it wrong, Timmy.
All right, tell the story.
He was a good friend of the owner of the Giants.
Horace Stone.
And my dad and your grandpa were Catholic, of course. And the Stone family were all Catholic, so I was supposed to meet your grandpa at a ballpark in Phoenix and watch a game. Tom was going to play, but I had the day off, so I'm waiting for him to come, and he's late. And all of a sudden, I look out. There's about 14 people walking up, all Giants, and the bishop from Joliet was there. So I hollered out, "Don't give him a kiss, just kiss his ring." That's where the ring came. I don't even know who the bishop was.
In a short description, describe Grandpa to us. Very brief.
I was going to ask. I want to find out about your grandpa.
Yeah, tell us about Foxy.
My dad was the most brilliant man I've ever met, and he always used to love the word common sense. And there's no common sense in the world today. It doesn't seem like. My father could not read and write. And again, like I say, he was the most brilliant man I've ever met. He was right 900% of the time. He reminded me of Cal Hubbard. Them guys are always right. And when we were kids, he'd say something we thought he was nuts, but we wouldn't talk back to him because we didn't want to get a slap in the chops. But I'll give you one example of how he thought. Tom and I, we were young, probably 12, 11 years old, right in there. And we had two families. I had a family, Tom had a family. We had to cut the grass in the summer and shovel the walk in the winter. And we got paid 50 cents. And we were very wealthy at 50 cents. Well, anyway, it was a winter day, and my dad come home from work, and after 47 years in the steel mill, there was snow about 18 feet high, not quite, but 2 or 3 feet high. And cold, wow. So we're eating. We always ate at 5 o'clock in the evening. And he turned to me and said, "Bill, did you do Mrs. Lily's walk today?" No, Dad. How come? Well, I told him, I understand. But after you eat, go do it. I want to see you. Same thing to Tom. Anyway, we're standing in front of our father, who, and he says, "Did you get paid?" And he said, "Yeah, take it back." Oh, Jesus, Dad. Hit us on the head with a brick, but don't make it. Take it back. So now we have to take it back, the money back to the two ladies. And they don't want to take it back. But they have to, because we'd get killed. We'd be buried the next day. Well, anyway, they took it back. And now we come back and we're standing in front of our dad. And when Grandpa said something, he meant it. He wasn't like the gutless people that run the game of baseball today. When he said something, he meant it. He said, "For 1 year, you will not get paid, and you will do it for 1 solid year. And the reason I'm doing this to you, you let 2 elderly people down when they needed you the most." Oh, what a lesson. What a lesson. I'll never forget it. Never forget it. And he had many times he did things like that. He was unbelievable.
And it's stock. It's the Haller DNA. And we've had, we're going into our 20th some show, Ralph, and there's this common denominator that we discuss almost on a weekly basis, and it's about integrity and human character. And I'm so blessed and fortunate to be a part of this Haller clan. And and Uncle Bill, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight.
Man, I didn't know you were doing this, Tim. You didn't tell me you were a star.
Oh, well, I'm not a star, but, you're a star.
Let me tell you something. He's a star. I'll tell you that, Mr. Haller. And I'm not going to call you that again, Bill. God damn it.
Hey, I will say this. In the house, if you are christened a star in the Haller family, throughout the United States, anyway, star is synonymous with asshole. So if you're a star, you're a real asshole. And we mean that, of course, lovingly and endearingly.
I've been called.
Hey, Bill, I'm gonna tell you why this whole program exists. When I met your nephew on Facebook, the first thing that came to my mind, and I probably, of our 20 shows, I've mentioned this 18 times, and I'll mention it 19 times out of the next 20.
Yeah.
Your brother gives back scholarship money to the University of Illinois back in the day. Now, nobody did that. I'm a young person coming up at that age. It was probably 61, 62, and that's another question. You started umpiring in 61, and you didn't umpire in 62. Were you just called up as like a sub-umpire?
No, they didn't have that stuff. Let me tell you about the giving back. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. My mind wanders a little bit,
no,
but
that's fine. That's
so
fine.
impressed. That's a lifetime memory for me.
I know, mine too.
That's
and this is another thing with my dad. And my mom told me the story. I was down in Florida that year. And the scout comes in. He was from Decatur, Illinois, which is not too far from Joliet. So he comes to the house to sign Tom. And Timmy's mother was there. They weren't married yet. They were going to be getting married pretty soon. And anyway, the BS like baseball people do. And finally, the scout says to Tom, "You ready to sign, Tom?" He said, "Yeah." My dad said, "Hey, wait a minute." He jumped. Oh, I guess he almost jumped out. "What the hell's wrong with you people?" Meaning the baseball people. "He's a punk. He's a punk. What the hell is he? He has to promise his mother and me two things before I allow him to sign." I don't know what he'd do if my brother said, "I'm going to sign, Dad." Well, he wouldn't because I had too much respect for him. But anyway, the scout says to my dad, "Isn't the money good, Mr. Allen?" He said, "Listen, that's more money I ever saw in my life. He has to promise his mother and me two things. He has to promise he's going to graduate from the University of Illinois, and he's going to give back the money that was the scholarship money." So the scout says, "Why does he have to give the money back?" My dad said, "There's somebody following him. They need the money for the person following him." See how brilliant this guy was?
Yeah.
Man,
Unbelievable.
story. What a story. I've got goosebumps. So what was your dad's first name? Red?
Frank. Red was his nickname, yeah.
His nickname.
They were from Croatia. Where Croatia is. The whole family. Grandma and Grandpa came from Croatia. My dad was the oldest of 13 kids. And all pretty good kids. But none of them, only one graduated from high school out of the 13. And it wasn't my dad. He got kicked out of St. Mary's. He hit the nun or some damn thing. And that was him. I'm surprised he went home. Grandma. Now, Timmy, where's your studios at?
Well, Ralph, in Alameda, California, which is just over by Oakland. It's a suburb of Oakland, California, up in Northern California. And, I live down here in the desert. But everything now, the way things are today, is electronic. It's digital. So we are able to do these broadcasts. Ralph records them, and then he'll put the show out later in the week. And when it gets completed and everything, I'll let you know. You can hear it back. But I just want to thank you for taking some time out. It's about 9:45 out in Illinois right now, and it's past your bedtime. Because what are you, like 18 years old right now?
Timmy, you're ignorant for making it so late. I need my beauty friend.
Okay, I got to ask one question. Who was that scout that sat in the living room? Was it Charlie Fox?
I'll tell you who it was.
Gene Thompson.
Who?
Gene Thompson.
Oh, okay.
No, his name was Sweet Thompson. Did you say Thompson, Tim?
Yes, I did. Gene Thompson.
Sweet, yeah, Gene Thompson. Sweet.
He signed that. Yeah. Right. And he signed that. He signed a lot of big leaguers, let me tell you. And he was another wonderful person. You know, my dad and he were friends until, of course, he passed away in the 90s. But he was a wonderful man, wonderful person.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, real quick, could
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Bill, because the roving guy in with the White Sox for you, Timmy, and your uncle was with the White Sox then, was Dick Allen. And I'm wondering if you could, Lamar Johnson told me that no one hit the ball harder than Dick Allen, that he never saw a man hit the ball harder. That would be exit speed nowadays.
If I have to say one guy hit it harder, that would have been Frank Howard. But I don't know if listen, Dick Allen hit the ball so damn hard. And you want to know something? Them two guys that we were talking about, Howard and Allen, they are two of the nicest men that ever put a uniform.
No kidding. Boy, is that the truth.
Yeah.
That, you know, and I've shared on the show about how blessed I was to have some of those guys around in the minor leagues with the White Sox, Jose Cardinal and, you know, Dick Allen. Those guys were just great people, and they were great teachers. But what wonderful people to learn from. You know, it isn't about what their prowess was between the lines. It's what they shed down to us young kids. And I'll tell you what, Dick Allen was one of the best.
He was one
nice
of the best.
To hear, because, you know, perception and reality, again, oft times they don't match. And Dick Allen he gets a lot of bad rep, and
well, you don't want to believe everything you read. I'm telling you that right now.
Absolutely.
And if you want to hear the truth, about anything, just ask Bill Haller. He'll tell you.
Well, let me tell you a story. You talk about truth. You know, everybody blasted Steinbrenner. He was mean to Martin. He was mean to this guy. He was mean to that guy. Well, anyway, like I said, I was looking for umpires in the American League, and Billy got fired his fifth time. And I fly I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and who the hell's there but Billy? I've never seen him look better. I said, Christ, Billy, you off the sauce, huh? And he laughed. And I said, I read where George lets you go. Yeah, but let me tell you the story. He called me in his office, sat me down, and we're talking. And he said, you know, Billy, I love you probably more than my own sons. That's how much I love you. But we can't work together because we're both rock-headed. And the reason you're there and I'm here because I own the club. But here, he pulled out a contract from his desk, 10 years, $500,000 a year. Pretty good boss, right?
Wow.
I didn't read that in the paper.
No, you didn't. And that's the kind of man George Steinbrenner was, you know, he really was. But we only get to get bits and pieces of the negativity through our printed press, you know, and that's the sad part about it, because no matter what, they really don't know. The guys that are writing for their city paper, they don't really know what's happening behind closed doors. They have no idea. They can only speculate because they're not privy to that stuff. Like we were very fortunate to be around, you know, and the average common guy only gets to read in the daily paper what one person's perspective is.
Let me say one thing about a player that gets no respect. And I thought he was a glue that held a great Oakland ball clubs in the early 70s, and that was Campy Campaneris. Campy Campaneris, to me, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. He probably isn't, but as a he was just a great player for that great team, and they had some great players over there. And they, of course, I worked one of their series. But
Campy's a gentleman too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does he live out there?
No, he doesn't. But he lives in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, does he?
I don't know if you know the late Dr. Pearson, Dr. Craig Pearson in Mesa.
I heard the name, but I didn't know.
Okay, he was in the Player Association and team doctor with the Cubs but he introduced me to Campy years ago, and he just a great guy.
And you know who else was a great guy? It was Dick Hauser.
I didn't know much about him, and
well, yeah, he died so darn young, and was just a top. Now, listen, baseball's got the best. Baseball is the best sport, and they're trying to screw it up. I'm telling you, and they're doing a good job. They're doing these rules that they have today. You have to. I think some idiot, either Hillary Clinton or somebody from the Democratic Party, is making these rule interpretations.
Not a baby, Uncle Billy, not a baby.
Huh?
Okay. Dare we ask about replay?
Oh, Jesus. What a joke. That's an abortion.
Okay.
The only thing I think is pretty good, and I just thinking about that today. I like the interleague play because it gives you a different perspective. You see the great players in both leagues. That I understand. But instant replay is a joke.
Does interleague play take some of the luster off the All-Star game in the World Series?
Look at what happened in the World Series. Here you got a guy that screwed up the All-Star game in Milwaukee. You know what I'm talking about. I can just imagine. Oh, I'm so crying like a little 2-year-old baby, and the owners come rushing to him. Oh, buddy, you're the best. You're full of shit, buddy, and we'll take care of it. Now, whoever wins the All-Star game starts the World Series, which is a joke.
I know, it's an exhibition
joke.
Game. That's horrible. Yeah. I was led to believe that was done to satisfy TV interests.
Well, everything's satisfied because of the money, but no, I don't believe that. I think that was done because what happened. I am convinced that they did that to protect Seeley. Because, let me ask you this. Why is the press, of all the craziness that happened in the last 25 or 20 years when he was commissioner, why they were so soft on him? The drugs were rampant. The salaries were out of sight. And then they come in with this designated hitter crap. Which, you're talking about an abortion. Woo.
Yeah, we don't even talk about expansion. That's just diluted the talent so much, too.
Yeah. Well,
I contend because the game is so international at this point that the talent really hasn't been diluted, other than the fact that you can't get black kids to play ball in the inner cities. And
I grew up with a lot of blacks, and I admire. My black friends will always be my friends. I don't care as long as I live. I always think the world of them. But you have to give the inner city kids. You have to say thank you. Look at the NBA, how great they are. Look at the National Football League, how great they are. Baseball, I think the great athletes, and I think baseball's sort of sad they're losing these guys because they're going to football and basketball. And I don't blame them because they excel. I think, answer me this, I think traveling team for kids in Little League has done more harm to the baseball than anything else.
Oh, there are harms, and that they don't play other sports, and they don't develop like a basketball skills transcend to baseball. It doesn't hurt a kid to play basketball if he's a baseball player. I I think. But most importantly, they burn the arms out at young ages. I've read stuff about 15-year-old kids getting Tommy John surgery.
You know, I was watching.
Who's racing?
I hate you. I hate youth sports. Go out and play amongst yourselves. You're going to be better if you do that. But today it's a different world. You worry about these kids today with all these morons driving cars and trying to pick kids up and things like that. So you worry about them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's a nutty world, and I don't even want to ruin the thought process we're going on tonight to talk about real life. This has been absolutely a dream Walter Mitty job for me tonight, getting to talk to you two guys.
Can I say one thing? The experience I had the other day. My niece runs a Holiday Inn here in Vandalia, Illinois. So I went to see her the other day, say hello to her, and there's a bus, a school bus out there, and so there was a couple kids sitting down. So I sat with them, and lo and behold, all of a sudden I looked in. There was about 30 young girls, and oh man, and anyway, they happened to be Jewish. And I said, what are you doing in town? They were going to St. Louis. I said, where are you from? They said, New York and New Jersey. And what a joy it was to just talk to them. And one of the little girls said, do you know Jews? I said, sure. Do you like them? I said, of course. I said, one of my heroes is Jewish. And she said, who is that? I said, Netanyahu. Anybody can tell our president jumping the lake is my hero. Well, anyway, I'm getting political, but
well, that's okay. I can't answer that, and it's a political question, and I'm Jewish. You know, you get two Jews, and then you get three opinions. So,
but anyway, to get back to this little girl, there were about 30 of them, and believe me, I was so impressed with their attitudes. They were so polite. And they just stood there and listened and asked a few questions. And I asked one of the little girls, and they're about 15, 16 years old. I said, any of you girls want to be rabbis? And she said, we're not allowed to be rabbis. Is that true?
Well, yeah, you know, that's true of all religions. There's something fundamentally common denominator to all religions. Yeah. They treat women like shit. Every one of them. That's just every one of them. All different degrees. Yeah. But any time you bring God into it and you put them as inferior in temple, these are the women are the ones that have the kids.
Yeah, I know.
God, I mean. It's all bullshit, and it's bad for you. That's what George Carlin said. That's all. But culturally, we learn. That's different. We learn from each other culturally, and when I say that, I mean the organized part, not the religious part. The organized part. It's it just puts people against each other. So
you know, go ahead. One of my best friends in Joliet when I was growing up was what happened to be the rabbi, Rabbi Morris Hirschman. I don't know if Timmy ever knew him or not.
I met him. What a wonderful man.
What a brilliant, oh man, was he brilliant. And everybody loved Rabbi Hirschman. The only thing that he didn't do it wrong. If you're going to have a couple speakers speaking, make sure Rabbi Hirschman speaks last, because he was so good. He was so good.
Yeah. No one talk about perception and reality. I would have thought, because you guys are Midwestern people, that really, and Timmy and I never mentioned a Jewish name. There's no Jews in baseball. Al Rosen, Greenberg, but few and far between. That you guys didn't know Jews, that Jews were so foreign to you that again, perception, reality, that's, it changes.
Well, the truth is we're surrounded by them. And whether or not we consciously want to embrace it, well, shame on us. But I'll tell you something about the Howler clan. There is no prejudice. The foundation of our family is about love. And there were a lot of Jews that were in the Joliet area, believe me. And there are a lot of Jews that live on the peninsula of San Francisco Bay Area. And you know what? They're all of our friends. So
that's nice. And what's interesting is that 2% of the country's population is Jewish. 2%. I just, but that's why my perception of the Midwest, that you guys would not know Jews. Thrilled that you do, because again, learning from each other, getting culture from each other is really
where I grew up in this part of Illinois. Jewish, a lot of Jewish people. I know a lot of Jewish people. A lot of my friends happen to be Jewish, and I think it's
well.
great.
Let me tell you something, Bill. A lot of my friends are Croatian.
Hey, that's great.
And two really good ones, Bill.
Yeah.
This has been terrific. Loved it, and I hope you'll come back. I hope you were comfortable enough to come back, and that you'll join us again sometime.
I'd love to join you sometime, man.
All right. Hey, Uncle Billy, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Hey, Tim, thanks for inviting me.
We're going to do it next week, too, and we're going to do it
every week.
Whatever the word. Next week.
Okay. Take care.
All right.
Uncle Billy, I'll talk to you later this week. Have a good one, guys.
Okay.
Love you guys.
Thank you, gang. You guys have a good night.
Terrific. Thank you. I'm going to end the show the way I generally do. Tell everybody to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea.
Right?
Okay.
All right.
Listen.
Thanks again.
Hey,
what a
Timmy.
Thrill. Timmy might have hung up. Now we can talk about him, Bill.
Yeah, but send me your address.
I will.
Tim will give you.
I'm going to send.
Send me a card or something.
Just that you had fun is incredible. Thanks, Bill. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thanks for everything.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.